Elbow, forearm, he's going to be down.
The result of the play is a touchdown.
And then the flag that was thrown on this was picked up.
I don't know, did it get the face mask?
So by rule, the game is over.
The Lions Hangover.
Welcome, everybody, to the first audio exclusive podcast of the Lions Hangover podcast. I am Brad. Don't forget to check me out on all social medias. You got the Instagrams, the Twitters, and the Facebooks. And, of course, if you're hearing me, I am on Spotify and Apple Podcast. The video version of the show will resume when the season starts, so September of 2023, maybe late August, I'll pop up and do the season predictions like I did this year. I was pretty close, by the way. I predicted the Lions would go 10-7, and of course we all know that they finished at 10-8. I was pretty close. I only needed them to win one more game, so I feel pretty confident with my ability to kind of gauge what the Lions are supposed to do. And of course, with that prediction, I did preface the whole thing of Jared Goff playing up to his potential. And that's what today's show is going to be about. Today's show is going to be about Jared Goff. And he's sort of a polarizing player here in Detroit. Either you love him or you hate him. And I am hoping to break that down, if you will. So yeah, Jared Goff, he finished the season with a 65% completion percentage, along with 4,438 yards. His touchdowns were 29, and he only threw 7 interceptions, his longest being 81 yards, and he finished the season with a 99.3 quarterback rating. So that's pretty good, pretty solid. It is where you want your quarterback to be. I would say he had an above-average year as far as what you expect from Jared Goff. I would say he maxed out his potential. This is the Jared Goff you are going to get. Now, the game that was my favorite from Jared Goff was the first half of the Miami game. That first half against Miami was the best half of football that I saw the Lions play all year. And, of course, they lost that game, but that first half, I would say that the Lions were the dominant team, and it was really impressive with Jared Goff. Now, I'm going to try and break down with the pros and cons list. Jared Goff, you know what you're getting with Jared Goff. He's going to make smart decisions. He's going to throw the ball to the safest spot possible. He doesn't seem to fold under pressure. He doesn't seem to make any dumb mistakes. He is solid and he is consistent. Now, there's a few things that do worry me, which is his deep ball. He doesn't seem to throw it deep too much. His average yards per attempt were 7.6 yards per attempt. Of course, he did throw some deep balls the second half of the season, to which he had moderate success. I don't want to say a lot of success, but moderate success. Now, hopefully that changes once Jameson Williams is up and running completely. I don't know what the status is with DJ Chark. The things I have been hearing is that DJ Chark won't be back, and Jameson Williams will be taking his spot on the roster as far as the deep threat. But still, if you look at what DJ Chark did this year, he was healthy the second half. He wasn't necessarily the deep threat that we were all led to believe that he was going to be. And it's not that DJ Chark can't handle it. I like DJ Chark. I hope he comes back. I hope the Lions and him can work it out. He's not the odd man out that I would want, but there is a reason to that one-year contract. Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell do have a plan for the offense, and the writing is on the wall. It doesn't seem like DJ Chark was part of that long-term solution. However, when he was healthy, they did not utilize him as a deep threat. And when they tried to, more times than not, Jared Goff could not throw the ball. The ball was underthrown several times. A lot of his incomplete passes were low to the ground, or they were coming up short. Of course, the two Jameson Williams passes, the first one that he caught for the touchdown, even that was short. You could, he was wide open, but you can see Jameson Williams had to stop running to catch the ball, and it was the exact same play, I think, the week after, or maybe 2 weeks later, except this time he was covered and he was not able to catch that. But you could just see the ball was underthrown. So consistently, Jared Goff cannot throw the ball deep. Now, periodically, he does have luck. If you look at that Khalif Raymond throw against Green Bay, I forget how far that was in the air. I think it was like 51 yards or something. It was an amazing throw and an amazing catch by Raymond. But if you give me a handful of darts and a dartboard, I can promise you sooner or later I'm going to hit the bullseye. That does not mean that I can just hit the bullseye whenever I want. So this is something Jared Goff needs to work on. He needs to work on his accuracy for his deep throw, even his short throws. The outdoor games, there were lots of ankle catches. So there's lots that I think the people that hate Jared Goff or tend to not be one of his fans, these are their main complaints. Sure, he throws lots of completed passes, but they're not as accurate as they should be, or your quote standard quarterback would be able to throw. So a lot of the catches are behind the receivers, or they're at the ankles, or these are throws where if he was able to complete them in the receiver's stride and they didn't have to break their stride, they could very well get 5, 10, 15 more yards, maybe even break them for touchdowns. But the fact that they have to catch them at their ankles, that they have to sort of slow up their route and catch the ball, it really hinders the receiver's ability to do what the receiver can do, which is break some tackles. And it's frustrating to watch, because here's this guy having a great year, but at the same time you see some very obvious struggles. Fortunately, he did not have too many games where he turned the ball over, but they are the kind of mistakes where sooner or later he would get burnt by that. You're going to catch a diving cornerback or a diving safety or a diving linebacker, and these guys are going to get interceptions, and that would directly be related to Jared Goff's throwing ability. And I believe he also had 5 fumbles. I'm not going to fault him for the fumbles. It happens. You can only hold on to the ball so tight. It just takes one punch to knock it out. So you can't really fault him for the fumbles. I know Jamal Williams, he had 2 fumbles. Or 3 fumbles, kind of in a short span of time, and he's not known for his fumbles. So, but it happens, it's like a lottery. Sooner or later, you're due to come up the winner, and it's just going to happen. Nobody has ever gone their entire career without fumbling the ball. So I'm not necessarily worried about the fumbles. Yeah, you hate to see them. Yeah, you should do your best to, limit the amount of turnovers that you have, but those aren't directly related to bad decisions. That's bad luck. The interceptions are bad decisions. Now, minus those bad decisions, the things I'm not going to count against Jared Goff are the interceptions that are at the end of the half. If you're being aggressive, and you're like, let's try and get this touchdown here. At the end of the half, before going into halftime, maybe you don't get the ball coming out of half. Those are things that I'm not going to fault Jared Goff for. So if he's throwing it deep and it gets picked off and there's only like 10 seconds left in the half, that's not an interception I'm going to count towards his stats. Now, like I said, he had 7 interceptions on the season. I think 1 or 2 of those interceptions are the kinds of throws that I'm talking about. Same thing with the end of the game. If you're down by 4 points, and you're trying to throw a touchdown, I don't believe any of these interceptions this year were because of this. But if you're down like 4 points and you're like, I have to throw it deep, Hail Mary time, this is it, this is for the game, and that gets picked off, I'm not going to hold that against them, because it's, what choice do you have? You have to try and win the game. So that's what that is. That's a Hail Mary. You're just throwing it up, and maybe, somebody will answer your prayers. But it's those other interceptions of which I would solely blame 5 of them on Jared Goff are his decision-making. Now, his last 8 or 9 games, he didn't have any interceptions. So like I said, it was a pretty solid year, but there are still things that the Jared Goff haters see in his game, in his decision-making ability, that just drive them nuts. And I try to stay in the middle. I try not to hate on the guy, but at the same time, I always see room for improvement. I would say this about every single player in the NFL. There's not one player that I feel like, oh, these guys have it under control. I am a huge Josh Allen fan. I think he is the quarterback. He turned the ball over like crazy. But Josh Allen has something that I believe Jared Goff does not, and that is his leadership ability. And I'll talk more about this. When the Lions played Buffalo on Thanksgiving, you saw, when it came down to it, you saw Josh Allen take control of the team and do what he needed to do. At this point, I do not trust Jared Goff to lead a comeback victory. If we're down 10 points with 5 minutes left in the game, and, I can trust our defense to come up with the stop because the opposing offense, is going to play more conservatively. Yeah, I almost said it. So they can, run the clock out. So I trust the defense to be able to make that stop to get us the ball 2 times in under 5 minutes if we're down by 10. I do not trust Jared Goff to lead the team down the field and score a touchdown on a field goal or 2 touchdowns. I just don't see that in his playmaking ability. I don't believe Jared Goff to be a playmaker at the quarterback position. Jared Goff is not somebody that'll break a run for 15 yards. I would love him to be. This is something he needs to add. I'm not saying he needs to become Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts or old school Steve Young, anything like that. I'm not saying anything like that. He just needs to be able to add it. We need more than 3 yards, for a scramble. And there's a lot of times when you can see the pocket open up and I'm just yelling, run, 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 and then he ends up throwing it. It's either complete or sometimes it was incomplete. That's just the way it goes. But the scrambling ability is something he needs to work on. Also, his deep throws. He's a thin dude, and I would like to see him bulk up with 10 more pounds of muscle. Get some strength, and maybe that's just not the person who he is. But he doesn't look like a cut dude, he doesn't look very fit. He just looks like an average guy that throws on football gear. So I would definitely like to see him hit the gym more, and nothing huge, but, bulk up a little bit, get some muscle, get some strength. And, that would also help with, preventing injuries. Not that he's an injury prone guy, but I mean, if you take care of yourself and you're a physically fit person, you may be shielded a little bit more from injuries, shoulder injuries, arm injuries, stuff like that. Trying to think what else. I'm really trying not to hate on the guy too much. I really do think he had a great year. I just see, I don't even want to call them little things, but there's definitely things going on that I feel like he can improve on, and I would like to see him improve on before, I run out and get that Jared Goff jersey. So I want him to be our guy. I want him to lead us to success. There's one more point about the leadership thing that I wanted to bring up. I think it was when the Lions, it was the first half of the season. It was a game that they lost close. I'm not recalling what game it was, but he was on a Detroit radio show the next morning or 2 mornings after, and he said the phrase, it was something like he wanted to, I think Dan Campbell ended up kicking the field goal. God, what game was that? It was like the 4th game of the season. Anyway, Dan Campbell elected, maybe it was the Minnesota game. I think it was the Minnesota game. Dan Campbell elected to kick the field goal. Austin Seibert was injured, and Jared Goff said that he wanted to go for it. He wanted to run a play. and he felt like he should have pushed his case more with Dan Campbell to let him go for it. And this is the leadership quality that I'm talking about. It should be, no, I'm the captain of this team. Trust me to put this game away. And he didn't say that. And then he also said that, maybe they could have drawn up something for me. I definitely would have. I'm paraphrasing, of course, because this was 4 months ago. But he's like, maybe they could have drawn something up for me. This is another part. Like, Goff should have just known what he wanted to do. Like, he should have had this in his control. Like, he should have been like, no, I'm the quarterback. I know exactly what I want to do here. Like, trust me, I've got this. Now, if he shows those qualities, then that's the leadership that I want. Now, I've seen the videos of him running down the sidelines when he was pulled out of games early and he's cheering the guys on, I think when Jamal Williams broke one, it was in the Green Bay game or maybe the week before that, the Chicago game where he's running down the sidelines and he's cheering somebody on. And I love that. He's an awesome teammate. I know he's a great dude. I've got no problems with him. But like I said, there's just certain things about him where he could do better. And where I hope he gets better, because it's a whole lot easier to know that you have the quarterback than it is to try and find your next quarterback. And I've got no problem with him being here if he plays like he did this year. But there is a ceiling to his talent, and he may have just hit it unless he can figure out a way to take that next step. So, thanks for listening. That's my rant on Jared Goff. I'll be back later this week with another episode, and I will talk about something else. Occasionally I'm going to break down players like I did with Jared Goff, but I feel like Jared Goff is the hot topic right now, especially with all the mock drafts that are coming out. Should we keep Goff? Should we draft somebody else? What is Brad Holmes saying about Jared Goff? What is Dan Campbell saying about Jared Goff? So I just wanted to get in there and say those things. Oh, one more thing I wanted to add. If Ben Johnson leaves, I would be more on board with drafting a new quarterback, because I feel like a lot of success that Jared Goff had was because of Ben Johnson. So if the offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, is out and he takes this job in Carolina, I think the Lions could be in trouble. So that's just my opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. And that's another thing where it's like, that's kind of a tip to Jared Goff. If Jared Goff is truly a good quarterback, he will thrive in any environment. He can make it happen. I mean, how many different offensive coordinators did Tom Brady have? How many different offensive coordinators has Aaron Rodgers had? Like, they're consistently good and then those offensive coordinators go on to get head coaching jobs somewhere else. But the quarterback play never diminishes. Of course, some years are better than others, but they don't have a complete regression like Jared Goff is known for having. So there's just a lot on my mind about Jared Goff. Again, I want him to do good. I want him to be our quarterback. I have no problem with him being our quarterback, but I just need to see him, me personally, I need to see him take that next step towards brilliance, towards legendary, just to step up and be a leader. So anyway, thanks again for listening. I'm Brad. Again, find me on all social medias. And, of course, please rate and subscribe this podcast. I love the 5 stars. You can comment whatever you want, but that helps other people find this podcast. So that's sort of where I'm at right now. I just have to ask you guys for help. So if you know a Detroit Lions fan in your life, be like, hey, I heard this awesome podcast. It's called the Lions Hangover Podcast, hosted by a guy named Brad. So thanks again for listening. I hope you guys had a great time, and I will be back later with another podcast soon. Take care.